You guys are fabulous, and you did what I asked. You were by far the loudest school in the yard this morning. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Long, and I'm very, very proud to be the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Welcome, graduates, colleagues, family, and friends. Congratulations to you all. I know many people have helped the graduates arrive at this day, parents and other caregivers, partners, friends, and others who are cheering you on. For that reason, graduates, I'm going to ask for you to stand for a moment and turn around and give a huge round of applause to all those who have supported you in your journey here. And I happen to notice that many of the graduates have brought their children with them today. I invite all of the children to comment on today's ceremony however they see fit. You will help make this place feel alive as we think about the future. And I want to thank the staff who have worked tirelessly throughout the year to help all of us. And they've worked especially hard to make sure that this graduation is special, and they deserve a huge, huge round of applause. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my faculty colleagues who have served not only as teachers and mentors, but also as friends to many, many of us. And it is with some sadness that I recognize the retirements of 4 colleagues: Howard Gardner, Tom Hare, Dan Koritz, and Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot. We will all certainly miss their wisdom, kindness, and many, many contributions to this community. Now, before we get too far along, I'd like to recognize those who came before us in this space that we share today. We acknowledge that the land we are gathered on is the traditional territory of the Massachusetts people, and the land on which many of our homes, schools, and places of work currently sit are the ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples. We also recognize the enslaved individuals who helped to build this university and others around the country. Understanding the role they played in creating educational institutions that were not intended to serve them. Though acknowledging this history is just one small step, it moves us in the direction of giving respect to those before us. But now, this big, big commencement day, a really special day, and my first commencement as dean. That's actually a little bit scary. I'm supposed to say something profound and regale you and your family and friends with humor and wisdom and inspiration. Sure, not a problem. I mean, a past dean here turned one of his commencement speeches into a best-selling novel, and then went on to the presidency of a university that just happened to win the NCAA basketball tournament this year. Not a big deal. And then there was another commencement speaker this year, one who happens to be a billionaire, I might add, who forgave all the student debt of the graduates at the college at which he spoke. Best speech ever. Although you have to admit, he kind of set an unreasonably high set of expectations for billionaires to come, but I don't have to worry about that. Still, as I thought about this commencement, I considered what role I would play. But then I remembered this isn't about me, it's about you. So whether you are graduating from the EDD program, the EDLD program, or our Masters in CAS programs, what happened to this morning? You are all individually and collectively amazing. For some of you, this is not only the first graduate degree of anyone in your family, you were the first one in your family to receive any kind of college degree, and now you find yourself graduating from Harvard. So we've established that I'm here to recognize you graduates, and in a moment you will receive your diplomas. But I hope the reasons you are here go far beyond thinking just about yourself. So as I take a moment to share with you a few thoughts during this commencement, I'd like you to consider, what do you hope to get out of your Harvard degree? To start, I'd like to go back to August. For those of you who are newly arrived, I greeted you at orientation during welcoming week. Okay, I know that was a few months ago. But actually, many of you were kind enough to stop me, as I was walking across campus or in Gutman Commons, and you told me that my words meant something to you. And so I thought it was only fitting to revisit and expand on those words today. Now, I realize some of you have been here much longer than a year. For some of you, this has been the culmination of many, many years of work here at HGSE. But for those of you who missed last fall's orientation, don't worry, I'll catch you up. And I hope that these words resonate with you. The first thing I said is that you belong here. And you most certainly proved that. You showcased your talents and gave so much of yourselves during Double Take last fall and the Ed Talks this spring. Even while in the midst of your studies, you founded nonprofits, including one that focuses on supporting school-aged girls in vulnerable communities. You also published, including a book on how to make schools bully-free. And one of you, having been the first person in your community to attend Harvard, was invited to speak at your former elementary school's graduation. And now students walk proudly around your small town wearing Harvard shirts, the first step to them seeing themselves here as students in the future. Yes, each and every one of you belong not only to this community, but also to the Harvard University community and to the community of education professionals. You have earned my respect and my admiration. The second thing I said is that the person next to you also belongs. An important part of your time here at HGSE has been with your fellow students, and I have seen how powerful it is when you work together. You worked together in social issues, and as equity fellows, shared your expertise across the university by facilitating workshops and holding community conversations. You ran the Harvard Educational Review, an interdisciplinary journal that reaches thousands of readers with discussion and debate about education's most vital issues. You served as graduate teaching fellows at the Harvard Art Museums, incorporating works from the museum collections into the lessons of local high school students. You volunteered together at several local charities, including participating in the Books for Bingo family literacy event and helping children and families in the Cambridge Public Schools. And you launched Disability Disclosed, Harvard's first graduate student publication focused on disabilities and related topics. You belong, and the person next to you belongs. And I urge you to use your individual and collective power to change the world through education. Which brings me to the third thing I said as I welcomed many of you back in August. I reminded those who were present that they did not come to HGSE to get an education for themselves, but it was to improve the lives of those who cannot be here. It is this last point I want to focus on because in my mind, it is the one that I hope will carry you as you leave this place. Remembering who isn't here, those who are shut out from the opportunities you have enjoyed, can help guide your steps for years to come. So let's go back to the question that started it all. I asked, if God answered all of your prayers, would it just change you or would it change the world? I was struck by this question when I heard it asked by DeRay McKesson, one of the leaders of Campaign Zero, an initiative to end police violence. Again, he asked, if God answered all of your prayers, would it just change you or would it change the world? Now, at the time, as a person preparing for a leadership position, and also as a person of faith, it really resonated with me. But regardless of your beliefs, I ask that you consider what you've gotten out of your ed school experience and what you are working for. Stated another way, if all your hopes and dreams of what you can do with your new HGSE degree came true, would it just change you or would it change the world? I hope what you've done at HGSE has been meaningful, but our time together is as much for the people who aren't here as it is for the people who are. It is what you do after you leave here that will be a true reflection of what you got out of your HGSE experience. So let's try to be more specific. What does it mean to work for those who are not here? Well, one way to interpret this is in terms of those who have come before us. You may have someone in mind, someone from the past you wish could be here today. For me, one of the people I think about is my maternal grandmother. I think about what it would have been like for her to experience all the wonderful adventures I've been fortunate enough to have. You see, my grandmother was born in 1912 in the deeply segregated South. Still, she was an optimist about the possibilities in the future, and I can recall her sitting in a rocking chair on her porch at her home in rural Southern Virginia. And she would listen very closely to me, telling her all of my childhood stories, and give me a knowing smile and encourage me to take whatever leap was ahead. I was devastated when I lost her when I was 16. I know she would have loved to see firsthand how the world has changed and how her children and grandchildren have been able to do so much. In fact, whenever my mother and I share a happy moment, my mother will often say, "I wish your grandmother could see this." And I wish my grandmother was here today to see this ceremony. For a woman who had only up to a 4th grade education, I imagine what it would be like for her to see what her granddaughter is doing today. I have a feeling that her knowing smile would be on her face again. This moment being yet another confirmation that the love and the sacrifices through the generations amounted to so much more than anyone could have dreamed. And as we heard in the anthem this morning, lift every voice and sing. Now, this is just one story. It happens to be my story, and just one story of one member of my family. And I know you have your own stories, people you think of and cherish. We all stand on the shoulders of others, some who are long gone, who have worked hard to help us thrive, and what we do today is one way in which we pay our respects. When I say we work for those who are not here, you may also be thinking about the students, families, colleagues, and mentors you left behind in your previous workplace. Perhaps that was a school or some other organization. And hopefully, while you were here, you were not completely disconnected from them. These key people hopefully still gave you strength and were regular reminders of why you came here in the first place. Perhaps you will go back to them, refreshed after having time to reflect on your practice. Or maybe you learn new skills and new information to empower you to take the next step in your career. Or perhaps you trained for something different entirely, and you are anxious to enter your new profession, ready to make a difference. And so a third way to consider who is not here is to look to the future. There are those you have yet to meet and those perhaps you will never meet who will be the focus of your contributions and your work. And we really do have a great deal of work to do. If you need a few reminders, please consider the following. From our youngest preschoolers to our adult students, there are major gaps in opportunity, achievement, and success. By the time children enter kindergarten, gaps in school readiness by income and race are already deeply entrenched. And in higher education, more than a quarter of low-income students who enroll in a four-year institution drop out by the end of their second year, and less than half of them actually go on to complete their degree. Perhaps this is not surprising, given 21% of our children in the United States live in poverty, a poverty rate that is higher than all other rich nations. And segregation is also a fundamental determinant of unequal educational opportunity. Unfortunately, 65 years after Brown versus Board of Education, school segregation in the United States is getting worse, with the share of schools that are considered intensely segregated tripling since 1988. And globally, while there has been a great expansion of primary education, attending school alone is not a guarantee. Hundreds of millions of children cannot read or write. So we have a great deal of work to do indeed. So as we think of the children and adults who are not here today, I ask, what will your role be? Will your goals change you, or will it change the world? What will be the point of your Harvard education? The intent of this question is to remember that there is a larger purpose, especially for educators. And that's regardless of whether you are a teacher or a district leader, a researcher or an entrepreneur, a learning designer, policymaker, or counselor. What you do matters. Remember, as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And you are now well equipped to make a difference. Okay, so let's say that you've taken my challenge seriously. What advice do I have for you as you embark on the world? And yes, I do want to recognize the fact that I'm somewhat preaching to the choir just by the fact that you've chosen to be here. But it helps to remind ourselves from time to time about the importance of the work as we press ahead. As many of you know, this work is a marathon, not a sprint. So we all of us, need encouragement periodically to keep us on the path. And in this spirit, I want to leave you with several final thoughts. The first is to remember how we do things matters just as much as what we do. Now, for anyone who's been married or partnered for a long time, you know this to be true. Of course, there is the classic mistake of saying, "Are you really going to wear that?" Instead of saying something like, "Well, that other shirt would go lovely with your eyes." Now, my husband and I just celebrated 20 years of marriage this past March. Shout out to Carl. And one reason we got to this milestone is because most times, not all, but most times we tend to remember this lesson. And as with many things, what we learn in our most loving relationships translates to the other work that we do. So as you leave this place to make an impact in the world, remember that how you do things matters. To be clear, we do not come as saviors. I'm sorry, but your Harvard degree does not bequeath you all-knowing power, no matter how smart and how clever you are. Just like many of us learned recently that unleashing a fire-breathing dragon on King's Landing does not automatically give you the Iron Throne or make you become queen of the 7 kingdoms or even the 6 kingdoms. Take that lesson. But in all honesty, the suggestion I'm making is to go humbly into your work with a great respect for the students, the families, the communities, and the organizations you will engage, acknowledging the strengths and ideas and contributions of those you seek to support. To quote Lilla Watson, an Indigenous Australian artist and activist, "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. She said this to emphasize the fact that progress is a collective process. We are all in this together, and our fortunes are intertwined. That means approaching each other with respect, careful listening, and a collaborative spirit. So don't be focused only on what you're going to do, but also pay attention to how you do it. My second point is to acknowledge that the work is not easy, so you will need to find sources of strength. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet that's going to solve all the problems in education. We have to figure out what works for whom and what context. And if this were a one-size-fits-all, we would have figured it out a very long time ago. So while taking on this challenging work, it's important to have a sense of larger purpose. The aim is for those who aren't here, the aim to work for those who aren't here today may actually help give you that strength and sense of purpose. Just ask a parent. And I think there are a few in the audience. Perhaps you have someone here supporting you, or you are a parent yourself. And I have to say, personally, there's nothing like 2 a.m. feedings, exploding diapers, strollers that won't close, last-minute school projects, endless birthday parties, play dates, cold, rainy baseball practices, because spring never seems to come to New England. There's nothing like those things to prove that you can do almost anything when it's in support of someone you care for. And by the way, my mom and dad are here. Special thanks to them. I cannot say thank you enough. But don't worry, your grandkids are getting me back. So in fact, you may find that your students, your colleagues, and the communities you serve are actually a great source of support for you. Your partners will grow to be friends, and your families, the families you will meet, will actually become part of your extended circle. In your quest to help others, you will find that they also help you. And there is nothing better than when a student you've been cheering on finally sees their hard work pay off. That will build you up and make you prepared for another day, year, month. So keep that in mind. Finally, I want to leave you with a reminder to keep on learning. As John Dewey said, education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. So none of us are finished projects, nor the schools, the colleges, the organizations that you will go on to work for, including this place here. We all have to continue to invest in ourselves and continue to learn. So consider the case of the fine city of Boston, which I've called home now for 23 years. I mean, it's really hard. It's been 116 days, long days, since we've won a national championship. We have the World Series champions, my beloved Red Sox. Go Sox! Alex Cora, Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts. I will be seeing a lot of you this summer. And then there are the Super Bowl champs, the New England Patriots. But Boston, are we complacent? No, you always have to look to the future. And now the Bruins are in the finals of the Stanley Cup. So I know it's been a long 4.5 months since our last celebration parade, but fear not, I think the drought is almost over. So the point is, even when you feel like you're at the top of your game, remember that your time at HGSE is only one chapter in a long life of learning and honing your craft. And you are about to become alumni of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. You are now lifelong members of a community like no other. May you always stay connected and find this place one of inspiration, of supports, and of collaborators. All of us here on Appian Way will take pride as we learn about the impact of your work in the years to come. And as we prepare to celebrate our centennial during 2020, I hope that you will take part in the many activities that HGSE will have, not only to remember the past, but also to help shape the future as one in which each and every child has the opportunity to learn and to thrive. So in closing, today is a day of celebration and of your passion, of learning, and your commitment to serve others. As well, not only the people who are here, as well as those who are not. Whatever your greatest wishes and aspirations are, I hope they are greater than you. You and the person sitting next to you, working together with partners around the world, can make a real and lasting difference. And there is a whole world that is eagerly awaiting you. Good luck and congratulations.